curious to see what the answer is for Mickey, because I agree with the desk. I wasn't impressed with the Janna this time around.
And we'll see whether then we have seen the Annie flex every now and then, could still be the case. It has been so many different flex picks. I personally wouldn't mind a Cassante look in here. I do think that it forces BLG to either try and match. The only downside is if you don't want to go any support, you might be in trouble down the line.
And of course, with the Annie, while it is a flex, all 3 times G2 have run it, it has been in Caps' hands. We have seen the bot lane and support locked in simultaneously, so this will be another Janna game here for Mickey. I will say, of the 2 games he's played, both of them were wins. Both of them dominant wins.
Yeah,
no,
one of them had a 5 KDA, the other one didn't.
That is very much the truth. And now, of course, for BLG, the answer. So I think we can safely assume, obviously, Caps will be piloting that Annie for the 4th time here at MSI 2023. And Yagao has run the Ahri into it and will do once more.
And it looks like BLG is making the same read that they were talking about on the desk. We had that game, right? Like, we built up an incredible early game lead. We were able to snowball basically every single lane. We had an AD carry that was up as far as, what was it, 6K gold.
Yes, 6K gold.
Very, very early on. And we should have won that game, so we're just going to run it back and be completely fine.
We'll have to see though what Yike is going to take into the jungle, because we've seen him run it well with the Poppy whenever we get this Annie in the mid lane. We've also seen a lot with the Kha'Zix, so I'm curious to see if this is a game where we get to go back towards Yike being unleashed, because I think he's had a fantastic MSI, and I would love to see him bring out something like the Bel'Veth this time.
And I think let's also call out the fact that Broken Blade continues to be one of the most impactful players on G2 Esports. His Cassante game, significant. He had multiple times where he was able to zone and solo people, push them away with that all out. The top father, for the reason I'm wearing the pinstripe suit today, and while he was called the god of G2 on the Casio, this time around, he obviously played the Gragas as well as the Cassante. Cassante has been banned away. Gragas is open and available. It is a possibility. Let's see what they're going to run, as once again, they'll ban the Gwen as well as the Gnar from him.
2 options here can go for the Wukong if BLG wants to. I wouldn't mind the Viego. I think the Viego-Ahri combo is one that excels very, very well in the early to mid game, being able to snowball. BLG has shown that they're very able to win those early fights. This would also fit the same bill, I think, between either of those. Going all in on early game, I wouldn't mind. Wukong is more into the team fighting direction, relinquishing a little bit of early control.
But both the Lee Sin and the Wukong kind of suffer from the same thing you were talking about last game, Cronicler, right? There's a Janna on the other side. They are so good with the Janna, just dismantling all that engage, any sort of setup that you have. So I'm very curious to see how Shun is going to try and pilot this one. I actually thought he might just default back to the Sejuani and just go, hey, look, I can just go for the long range engage instead.
I do want to say that, like, nameplates off, players agnostic, the Janna pick can do well. I wasn't convinced in the previous game. And top father Broken Blade has locked in the Darius blind. Okay, so Ben will have the option to counter this. Yike, what direction does he go in terms of his jungle pool? When I take a look throughout the rest of MSI, Viego, Bel'Veth, and Viego's going to be the most played. 2 games played, 1 win, 1 loss. Does it happen? Does it happen, Cronicler?
I wouldn't be surprised it was banned away I think last game or the first game as well, for a very, very good reason. But we do know that, like, the early matchup isn't actually that great for the Fiora. Also a matchup that can get very snowbally. We've seen a bunch of these hovers before, and it will be, again, the Jack. So BLG making the read. Whatever happened in last game is up to player error. We're going to run a very similar comp. Only swap up is, of course, that Shun is going to play the Wukong instead of the Sejuani. So more team fighting and backline threat, but a little bit less hard engage. And into the Janna, I do think that's a downgrade.
Yeah, I think this is the thing. If G2 can actually just smooth out the early game in bot lane and prevent BLG from being able to play into team fights, they don't have that long range engage with the Sejuani the same way. Shun needs to get in, and when we actually got to those later fights, regardless of what happened in the early stages, Mickey was massive on this Janna in preventing so many of those team fights from going the way of BLG, even preventing people like Bin from getting in. So coming back down to it, I like what G2 have. It's just a case of can they execute in the early game, because that's been the struggle.
Yeah, and looking at this, I do think there's also more pressure on them to do so, right? There's no Maokai, there's no Cassante, there is no guaranteed front line that no...
Bot lane has been the leading talking point, the primary stories, but these 2 teams have leaned on their top lane carries more than most. And now we're seeing this Darius into Jax. A 5-man stack from G2 towards the bottom lane. Howling Gale won't find any targets, so I don't think any shenanigans are afoot. And Elk, does he get spotted? 1-2, multiple members. Waiting to see if anything happens. I don't think that it will. And I will just double down on the points you guys are bringing up around the teleports. In game 1 or 2, Caps didn't run that TP on the mid lane Yasuo. Now we're seeing another teleportless Broken Blade. It does also mean that if they fall behind, you're going to be very careful with how they position and where they're in place, because you literally need Viego, Darius, and to run directly at your opponents for the comps to work.
It also means that you need to keep extremely good track of where Shun is, because for G2 now, because of last game, and I think the state of the tournament at the moment, you want to play towards your bot side. Make sure that Hans and Mickey can shove without too much threat. A lot of that will also rely on Caps being able to get prio. But you also need to make sure that Broken Blade is safe, because if he falls behind once with this Ghost Flash setup, even if he ends up trading 1-for-1, like the amount of minions and experience that you might miss out on can be extremely detrimental to getting this Darius going. I
think in terms of Darius, or in terms of the top lane rather, Yike has shown a little bit of time and presence, like 3-5, 3-6 minutes. Shown a couple of ganks, wasn't able to find that kill in his first Maokai, was able to put a little bit of pressure there. If you look at the minimap as well, Shun starting in that northern quadrant, you assume he's going to start pathing down. You can see that Yike starting on the southern quadrant. We'll keep a track on where they're going. That ward from BLG is on the blue buff of G2 Esports, and exactly like we've seen in all previous games, very early trading, very early back and forth, and shielding from Lulu helping out for now.
Hey look, Mickey gets to keep his flash as the first minion wave arrives. That's a big plus for G2, so let's see if they can try and continue this one forward, but the push is there. G2 should be in a relatively okay spot. Caps trying to move up just to get vision down, but actually doesn't end up placing the ward in the end, just ends up backing away as he just gets spotted coming back into lane there.
And I wonder whether this ward is actually going to spot Shun. At least they have the intel that the Raptors are currently down. Shun is going to get seen here.
There's a lot of damage on that bottom lane. Caps on the way out, placed that ward so that Warrior Trickster ended up helping out. Calling Gale up, Zap connecting. I think net positive is going to be a little bit in favor here of BLG. So I'm going to heal you, stepping forward, green-red. Mickey and Hansama chunked down. One potion, one biscuit left for Hansama, and the wave pushing, I think towards him. I didn't quite catch a glimpse of it right there. Is all of a sudden, right, so Caps, he avoids the gank in the middle lane. Bot lane, very aggressively trading, but no meaningful advantage to speak of yet. And Broken Blade going to be fairly happy that the wave is pushing towards him for now, but it does mean by the time it bounces back,
ghosting.
Could be trouble. Stepping forward, apprehend, Decimate's going to be flushed away from there. Broken Blade managed to pick that one up. There's too much happening in 3 lanes.
There's still a Viego up on this top side as well, though. I have to see exactly what the game plan is. Bin is going to reset. You're going to have the Jinx walking back into bot lane as well to just collect that wave as it crashes.
And look at that wave state, right? Like, as Bin, you can now do one of two things. Either you can basically flip the game and try to break it when you get back in with your teleport, or you have to call up Shun, who really wants to back, is almost done with his full clear, but would like to maybe pick up a scuttle, maybe look towards a bot lane play. But if he doesn't help Bin out and Yike does show up, he's in deep trouble. But with the knowledge that Yike is around this area, I wouldn't be surprised if Bin should be able to break the freeze.
Just trying to make sure the Caps can push this in nice and easily, not really have any sort of worry here. But I think you'll have enough information there that Yike is in the bot side that you can, at least for the moment, go for that in top side. Also looks like Broken Blade might have broken the freeze himself, so he wants to try and get his own reset in before Shun, because he's starting that top quadrant, makes his way up here, but might be a bit too late.
And this is exactly what I was anticipating. As that wave gets cleared out, Broken Blade steps forward, Shun is available, flashes up for Broken Blade, but here comes Yike. 2v2, Broken Blade flashes away from the leap strike. Yike is now the target of Shun. Takes a crushing blow to the face. No movement from mid lane as yet. As that mist is dropped down and Yike is able to escape. What I will say though is that when I do think of that Broken Blade Darius, I think of game 1 Loud, where he was able to absolutely take over the game. Right now it's going to be asked to do the same thing. Hansama, Eye of the Storm on. Trading back a little out of consumables for both of the respective bot laners. Yike now trying to hold the tower. Leap strikes forward, Spectral Maw as well. The leap and the tower ends up being a trade 1-for-1. The first by bonus goes to Bin.
I mean, that'll be nice for Bin. He gets the reset, pick himself up a nice buy, and the majority of that wave will die to the turret. Elk, though!
Oh, that's the flash forward to Gravitum! The flamethrower is flashed away from. Hansama stays alive. And remember, folks, if you get that first blood into the tower, it's faster to be killed than it is to recall.
And right now, both AD carries without a flash available here. Both Yike and Shun are going to want to make use of that, but Shun, crucially, when he hits 6, will have his flash available. So expecting to see them divert more attention towards the bot side, and the trade is favorable for Elkanon, right? They're able to just shove it in and get a great back here.
And because the two junglers started on opposite quadrants, you actually end up a little bit separated here. So you can see that the top side was where Yike would have liked to try and clear out down into the bot lane, but he's now got to leave all his camps up where he's Shun. He's just been power farming the whole way through, and now going to make his way down towards this bot side when you've got the reset and also the plates going over to Elk.
And please forgive me for the hopium. However, while Hansama is still 500 gold down and playing into a cull and down 10 CS, it's actually the least bad start of all 3 games. So for Hansama and G2.
Oh, okay, that's a...
Hey,
technically true.
Technically true, and that's the best kind of true to be.
Oh.
7 minutes in, Yike once again showing a little bit of leaning, a little bit of penchant towards the top. Cap's actually in the shadows as well.
Big wave.
3 members, but this is going to be flanked. On's making his way up, as is Yagao. G2 Esports see this one out and start to back away. Had they gone for the dive, problems could have arisen.
Again, though, is G2 investing into the top side. Shun spots Caps.
Oh, look for the charm, look for the charm. Holding on to it for now. Caps flashes away. Yagao sees 2 charges on that Spirit Rush. The charm still connects. Caps goes down, drops the tippers as well. Shun has a crushing blow. The shield comes up for a second longer, and Yagao stays alive. Yike's running for his life, and On once again flashes forward. The Clitolons, the health picks, the charm from Yagao. It's not done yet. Broken Blade throws down the Noxian Guillotine, and it's a trade of a 1-for-1 in the top lane.
Finally, G2 get one back, but BLG smacking down G2 in the river. Yagao took the spellbook cleanse, so when Cap stunned him, immediately able to get on out of there, get that damage down, and now G2 are not in the best of spots on that top side.
And I think they didn't see On, right? Because On was already roaming up to cover for the dive that was coming up towards Bin. And because of that, you see the confidence from BLG. They're like, we can take this. We're going to be a man up. Mickey and Hans both showing on the wave. And all Elk had to do was wait. On is even back in time to make sure that his Aphelios doesn't get zoned off this wave.
I mean, this support from BLG is just switched on to the gameplay. Is reading it particularly well. Rotated has been very, very impactful in the Lulu. Again, playing very aggro on what's this Enchanter support. Look at the minimap here, especially once On comes in to clean up that last kill.
Yeah, and you can see here, right, Yagao goes in, but he's already swapped over to the cleanse. So again, as soon as this ult comes down, Yagao knows he's safe. So the ultimate comes out, he cleanses, and then there's nothing really to follow up on. Caps has already burnt his flash, so Shun is able to finish him. Yagao moves in towards the topside jungle to make sure that he can follow up, and then just goes over the wall with that extra spirit charge to catch out Yike as well.
Really good movement as well there from Shun, making sure that he wasn't on top of his opponent, as in the top side, Bin is able to get the trade as...
I mean, listen, every time we're watching this replay, by the way, Elk and On are pushing the bottom lane. Elk used that Moonlight Vigil to push Hansama and Mickey away. That Cole has got 30 stacks remaining. Hansama's down to, what, 400 HP? And while he's relatively close on CS for now, look at the minimap. Shun, Yagao making their way down. Ultimate available again for Yagao. So if Hansama sticks around, that's a target to die.
But this is the thing, BLG have been playing really well around the map as to where G2 want to try and put some pressure. When you look towards the top side, because Broken Blade doesn't have the TP, the second Broken Blade wants to push a wave and actually get a reset in, lacking that teleport. BLG are reading that situation and catching G2 as they're starting to rotate up. And now, because again, Elk and On are just demolishing this bottom side, all the attention G2 are putting top just means that there's nothing to help out Hansama and Mickey on this bot lane. And with BLG now getting Dragon, they're actually going to be in a position where they can just play for side lanes, give up some of these early, or these later to mid-game Dragons, and not really be in a terrible situation.
I mean, 1,400 gold lead here for BLG. Played secured in the bottom lane. That's about a 500 gold lead for Elk. BLG being a lot more mobile around the map, looking for targets. The one saving grace up until a couple seconds ago was Broken Blade. I think he's catching a pretty sizable wave in that top lane. He was up around 15-20 CS. Thanks to the dive, thanks to the pressure that G2 had afforded him. And instead of going top once again, look at the minimap. You can see Bin. He's farming between 2 towers. Yike and Mickey are pushing towards this blue buff, but they're about to be collapsed on. Yike steals away the blue buff. Cyclone available, but the trigger not pulled. And as Hansam is pushing this wave into the bottom turret, yes, they steal away that blue buff, but it is a very minor victory for now because it's immediately balanced out by Bin in the top lane.
There was no Aphelios in the bot lane, so BLG didn't want to overextend for that. But as you say, Bin now starting to feel way more confident. He was down about 10 CS. Now he's farming in between the turrets. He's picking up blue buffs. Bin knows that he's now starting to crest into a position where he's going to be in a really good spot in this matchup. And that's going to be a problem point now for G2 if Broken Blade can't go toe-to-toe against the Jacks. Side lanes become a major issue with the teleport advantage.
Also see continuously, look at the movement from Yagao, right? Even if he doesn't actually end up going for the roam, just him heading into fog, hiding in vision, Shun and Yike meet one another.
Do indeed. Cyclone thrown down pretty quickly. Ultimate drop there, the Heartbreaker from Yike just to escape. And I will say that, you know, as we were getting into the mid-game portion of Game 2, I started asking whether or not BLG were going to use Jax on the side lane, whether or not the Jax, the Ahri, not the greatest 5v5 into what G2 put together. They didn't. They elected for the team fights and the skirmishes. Do you see a similar trend here in terms of the 5v5s? Is it a little harder for G2 to execute?
Yeah, I think in the previous game, the composition really played itself, right? Because it's K'Sante and Maokai. It's very straightforward, stand in front.
Really got to try hard to make
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think there's any shame in that, right? I actually think, particularly in hyper situations, having a comp that gives you a very clear form of game plan means that you can focus on other things. This time around, though, not really the case. A lot more pressure will be specifically on Caps and Broken Blade, because there isn't that much initiation for G2. There's OK pick, but if Caps doesn't go for a Flash Bear, it's always going to be BLG who will have agency and will be starting up the fights.
That also means that Caps needs to find an impact on the champion, and he's not done the greatest of. I do think that predictability of how relatively easy it is to see that initiation coming gives you options. You've got the Lulu, you've got the Charm, you've got the Warrior Trickster on the likes of Wukong to get away from things.
Yeah, it kind of goes both ways, right? Because also BLG's hard engage isn't as good as last game because they're missing the Sejuani, which was something that they really relied on. So whichever team gets on early lead should be able to then start denying vision, start setting up traps, and catch people off guard.
It does feel like G2 can't really find the moments to go against. Well, now at least they're going to get down here with the Rift Herald, but you can see that Caps had full push in mid. They want to try and look for the dive, but the wave was cleared out by BLG, so we'll get the charge. But I don't think they'll get much more.
Well, multiple plates secured. It's only a 500 gold difference between Alk and Hansama. And as this series has played out, the tempo, the pace, I was going to say aggressivity. No, the aggression between the two teams has slowed down dramatically. A lot of damage available as the Divine Sundra has already picked up for Bin with those 2 kills. Yike's looking for Shun, who manages to get past the Flame Chompers and is forced to flash! The Heartbreaker and the chip damage was way more than I was even expecting. Well played by G2 on the bottom lane. While that was going on, Broken Blade was able to escape, but at the cost of towers and pressure in the top lane. It's now a split map as far as objectives are concerned.
Yeah, just had to use the Ghost in that top lane as Broken Blade was able to escape. But as you say, Bin now, again, getting control in this matchup. He's totally happy. He's going to have his 3rd place. So you do get something back for Hansama, who completes the Kraken Slayer. But again, you need to find some way to slow down Bin here.
Yeah, Bin crucially knows that he is on a fresh back, has his Sundra available, and thus hard forces with the flashes. Looking at this replay, I think we, and Shun himself as well, was caught off guard by the amount of damage that comes through. The flashes, the zap, all this stun is completely fine. Instead, end up waiting a little bit too late. Big mistake there, because these are the type of moments that allow the G2 bot lane to stay on parity.
What's also very good about that is for G2, yes, that obviously cost a number of ultimates. They haven't got that huge objective yet. If you look, we're a couple seconds away from Dragon. I think Heartbreaker is the only major one that may not be available. Super Mega Deathrock is 5 seconds away. And it's G2 inside the pit. They are still down. 1,400 gold. Bin has teleport available, but he may not want to jump into a 5 versus 4.
I mean, BLG are fine here. They're just like, cool, you take it. We're just going to take the top lane turret. And again, this is the problem with not running that teleport. BLG are just going to look to play the map, get more gold into Bin, and then they can start to rinse and repeat this, especially with Rift Herald up as well. I wouldn't be surprised to see BLG rotating Elkanon up to that top side, having Bin starting to put pressure on the bot lane, and that's why G2 immediately tried to clear out mid wave and start to get control of the Rift Herald.
Because we saw BLG very happy to go for a very similar style of draft, but I do like that they also identified, hey, in the last game, we only team fought, right? especially once we got to the early game point, enabling Bin and allowing him to actually be a pressure point against the top laner without TP as big as Caps.
Caps again, this time jumped on, Decimate, Incinerate, Summon Tippers, Cyclone 1, Cyclone 2, Stopwatch buys time with the Super Mega Death Rocket, goes wide, Moonlight Vigil just about does it! Elk and BLG pick themselves up the kill. They also got that tower to follow up and may be able to look for a second.
BLG didn't match the mid lane of G2 where they'd rotated Hansama because they wanted to go for Rift Herald. BLG were like, cool, we'll just take your bot lane turret as a result, and Caps was trying to move down to catch the wave, but Shun was already in position to make that happen. BLG are playing this map so incredibly well.
Oh, Bin TPing back and on is on the way, but you see the confidence as well, right? BLG, while the play on bot side is working out, Bin, with a suspicion, immediately goes towards the moment his teleport completes, but On is already ahead of the play. He was already halfway through the lane by the time that G2 could have maybe gone for a dive, and particularly with Counter-Strike, Jax can stall for quite a long amount of time. G2 now, 3K deficit, really getting outpaced here on the map.
I mean, it's crazy when you actually think about it. The game feels closer. It feels more tense than what we've seen in the two previous games. But once again, BLG are the ones that accelerate ahead significantly. Those plates and those towers making such a gigantic impact in the gold advantage they've been able to accrue.
And that's how BLG are more than likely going to continue playing this. Play for map stay with their teleport advantages rather than looking for some of these early team fights. They don't want to go towards dragons in the early stages because realistically, they don't have to worry about it for at least another, well, 8 minutes at this stage, where now you're starting to get towards 3-4 dragons as G2. In this position, cool, Bin is massively far ahead of Broken Blade. Let's just try and use him. And then as well, Leo Yagao, who's much more of a threat on these side lanes for potential dive with Shun, or even just having a bigger safety net than Caps. We can just continue to play sides and then look to collapse on mid at any point in time.
The thing is, we sort of wanted to see that in the previous game, into that Maokai Kasante comp, right? Where the Ahri and the Jax were doing well. They could have done so. They elected to go for the 5v5s. Based on what you've seen from BLG in the LPL, Dagda, do they have the self-control to do so? I'll ask you to think about that for a moment, as Yike will be backed up by Mickey, teleport coming in from Caps. No flash available. Tippers is, though. Cyclone is already knocking them up. Tippers will land beautifully onto Shun's head. The follow-up is there. Yikes, looking to break the hearts of BLG. Steals away the counter-strike, finds the stun, and Broken Blade finds another. And Summer's excited. He's got the red buff, but he does get charmed up.
And there is your answer, Trev. They're going to try and get onto Yagao.
Oh, waiting for the reset. Yikes forced to back away. The tower still stands on the outside, and that gold lead has been mitigated. The recalls have been cancelled, and G2 Esports punish BLG.
And immediately, this turret is going to go down. Might get at the very least a charge on the tier 2. And while this is going on, Caps currently crashes the wave in mid as well.
Take a look at that gold difference. Yike, 4-2 and 1. 1,600 gold up on a champion like Viego, that if Bin or Elk are the scary targets and can get focused down without much more of a meaningful front line, he can just steal away their OP-ness and turn it into G2 power, as we saw with that Jax kill just in a moment.
And this was definitely a mistake from BLG. They overextend on the top side, the TP immediately comes in for Caps, and they just blow up Shun, who was trying to engage, and from that point forward, Yike is getting so many resets here to set himself up.
And you see the value of the Annie in situations like this, right? The moment you see a target, throw down all the burst that you have, because as soon as one member on BLG falls, between Viego, Darius, and Jinx, you are not going to lose the team fight, right? And we do see Charge came in on the top side turret, not able to pick it up just yet, but the gold close to equalize as all been.
Oh, there's the initiation once more. Caps picks up the kill. All of a sudden, the gold is dead even. But G2 Esports, they will lose their mid-outer turret. And again, at this point in both of the previous games, BLG had a larger lead. Broken Blade is jumped on, is running away, will not be able to be saved by the Eye of the Storm. The Monsoon is held, and with the Infernal Drake spawning immediately, G2, they find one but lose one.
The flanker becomes the flank. Broken Blade waiting for a juicy target, but it gets blown up and gives a shutdown over to Elk.
It's also the fact that now you have no front line. G2 would have actually gone over for the Dragon, but with Broken Blade down, nobody wants to try and face check into this, so they end up just backing away. BLG get a Dragon that in no world should have been theirs.
And G2, we've seen that BLG can really struggle if you're able to keep them down, right? Catch them off guard. Try and catch them in rotations. Try and force them into fights they're not supposed to take. Moments like this, it gets gold onto L, but it also means that the tempo of the game goes back into BLG's control. They're up in Infernal Drake. They're able to take control back of the river. And right now, G2's got to find a way back into it.
I mean, G2 right now are proving they can, right? That's 2 games in a row that they have been able to find some surprising skirmishes. Let's say as well, being able to punish BLG in some of the decisions they've made. We're also playing for an Infernal Rift, which frankly, both team compositions would love to pick up the Soul for. With so much damage on both sides of team compositions, they want to pick up that Soul. I am going to be intrigued to see whether or not the open jungle in and around those red buffs and blue buffs will benefit maybe Caps looking for some of those initiation tools. But with 3 towers to 2, a much slower pace, you can feel the tension of the series now starting to ramp up.
Yeah, I think the other upside for G2 here is that because the Jinx does have a decent amount of push in mid, oftentimes you can see she's getting that wave pushed in, and it's opening up moments for like Caps to kind of roam down towards the spot lane. You can see they're trying to see if they can fish for a pick onto Bin, but now as Caps has to go back and match top wave, the answer would be what can BLG try and achieve, and it looks like as they kind of suspected there was a lot of members of G2 down in that bot side, they'll steal away blue, start to get some vision in this top half, and just get ready in case G2 overextend on the bot lane where they can turn and immediately go for Baron.
I want to keep my eyes on Yike as well. Obviously the rookie to the international stage, the rookie to G2 Esports this year, has been one of the very surprising members and has been leaned on. I think in a recent interview the team was saying, or he was saying, the team just fully trusts him. They let him be the carry. They let him play the Balves, the Kha'Zixes, and you see them initiating around. Shun forced to flash again. He had flashbacks of that bottom lane where everything tagged him and he was just dropped.
I mean, that's huge. The fact that you need that flash to try and bypass things like the Janna tornadoes and get access onto G2's backline, not having that available now is going to be pretty difficult for BLG.
Yeah, and hold up.
Alk's alone!
Alk is alone! Cleanse already used! Yike is going to be over the moon for that one. And all it cost was that smite. That's a flash down from Shun, a cleanse down from Alk, and with 2.5 minutes until the next Infernal, potentially a Baron at any moment, that is big for G2.
Particularly because Cap still has his flash available, right? So now, if Alk gets caught by the Tibbers, besides on trying to keep him alive, there's nothing he can do.
Did Yagao just use Spirit Rush there as well? I didn't quite see. You managed to like zoom around the side. No, held on to that one. Charm didn't find its target. G2 Esports, they're setting themselves up. Thank you, Cronicler. And was that final charge just ticking away? Baron Vision set up. Do G2 Esports dare BLG to step into the pit with them, or are they looking for the pick? It seems to be option 2 for now. Remember, it's still 2 minutes to Dragon, so there's not a huge objective outside of that Baron to contest.
Yeah, trying to face check this G2 comp is a really big nightmare, but crucially, G2 haven't actually denied the vision, so BLG is in full awareness of where they are as BB.
Okay, BB's ghosting. He's trying to find a member of Bilibili to apprehend. Instead, backs away. This is giving crucial time for Spirit Rush for Cleanse to become available.
G2 are trying to find ways to push in mid-wave and then look for the tower, but BLG are just wrapping in behind them every time and clearing out the wave, not allowing G2 to actually get much damage or even any of the minions to hit the tower. So now G2, I honestly think you just forego mid. You could just run top, take that wave and take top tier 2, but I think they don't want to give up that much control over this mid-wave.
And also, this is where you feel the points that Dagda, you and Cronicler were talking about in terms of compositions. It's not the cleanest of engages. It's not, you don't have that Sejuani that just throws somebody out. You don't have the Maokai in Nature's Grasp. So because of that, you've got these slightly awkward standoffs. We're buying time, but with 1 Dragon to 2, I do think the next Infernal, there's either potential for a team fight, or if G2 with all the vision, well, I think some of it's been cleared out, timed out, they may want to lean towards Baron as well.
All comes down to, can they find that backline, and can they keep track of Bin and Yagao? Even with the Janna, not nearly as many tools as last time around to keep Hansama safe. As they're going to start up the Baron here.
This is just a straight flip, that's the question. Bin on the teleport.
They want his teleport. They want to try and get it out of him.
Okay, so that means we want G2 to peel. If that teleport starts to be chummed, they got to peel. Bin is already in the middle lane. Baron's down to 4,000. Bin's arrived. That's the Howling Gale catching up onto 1. They found a kill. Yagao is just blown up. Now G2 have to fancy a shot. Shun gets caught up by the Flame Droppers. Heartbreaker over the wall. Elk goes forward. Red, white, Moonlight Vigil, Baron secured. But can G2 get away? Caps run running low, stays alive, disintegrates Sean in the river, and Bin is running for his life. 5 members of G2 alive, and they're not done yet. Chasing on to 1. Yike hasn't found the CC, and Elk Red turns away. Green and white now got that range. He steps out. G2, get the kills, get the Baronet, get out alive.
Gonna be completely happy with that as G2. Caps has teleport available, so can afford to split push with that buff in the top lane. Will pick that up, and that is even more gold into the pockets of G2.
And now Caps will get the TP in. Zonya's now completed. G2 want to go for the Dragon. Elk in the bushes isn't spotted.
3 seconds before Shun spawns, as you mentioned. Spellbook is there for Yagao, but I don't know if he really wants to. TP in instead, holding Flash Ignite, making his way forward. Broken Blade catches himself a Jax, decimates away, crippling strikes down, and Yagao's charm goes wide. Hansama follows the rest of the squad. Yike is on a rampage, and he's looking to break the hearts of the LPL. He's got himself another, and Hansama steps forward. G2 Esports, clean, calculated, controlled at a 4,000 gold lead.
And a Baron buff to their name as well. They're going to start looking to get these outer turrets knocked down. G2 somehow are managing to outfight BLG every step of the way.
And you see BLG just, they can't find anything.
Oh, look at this from Yagao. Super Mega Death Rocket goes a little bit wide. Hansama chasing the kill is forced to flash for his life. Shun's not done yet, and he gets the shutdown. But on the backside of it, Caps is able to get Yagao back. Oh, Hansama just oversteps that patience, that calmness, get caught up in the chaos.
Thought he'd be able to finish off Yagao and get a little bit more for his troubles, but not quite able to do so. It does give that shutdown over to Shun again. Flash had to be invested, but this is the replay.
And it starts with Mickey finding the tornado, and then Yagao just gets 100 to 0, right? There is nothing that he can do, doesn't have the cleanse available with his spellbook. So as a result, from the get-go, BLG is trying to fight, and again, credits to Yike with the amount of damage he's able to output, is able to get back in time as well with the ultimate. Look at that!
I may have oversold clean, calculated, and controlled. I may have oversold that a little.
I have to say, though, Yike has been so impressive this tournament, and even since he's come into the LEC, like, for a guy who had such an incredible rise, like, each year going from winning the LFL, winning EU Masters, winning the LEC in his first split, and now coming in to MSI as well, going up against BLG. This man has had an incredible rise, and to see him now getting those steals for G2 is so important.
I definitely did not quite realize how close Shun was inside the pit. But the Smite fight this time around goes the way of G2. 2 dragons apiece, 2.5 minutes, 250 rather, until the next one spawns. So Soul is still a little while away. Baron, Red Bull Baron Power Puff, already timed out, right? So G2 Esports happy, content to continue pushing. They've stacked up as 5. Reminder, no teleports available. Only 1 for Caps. It's on cooldown. Tibbers is dropped down, and Yike is the target, forced to use the ulti just to escape. And the tower will fall. While that's going on, Ben is continuing to push up top. Zap, tags, and that'll force the Spirit Rush away. I think G2 have shown great command of layering up that CC to force ultimates.
BLG are trying to chase them. They're trying to buy time for Bin to actually get this tier 2 in the top lane. So overall, you're going to be happy with BLG if you can at least trade it back. Yes, you got Yagao's ultimate out, but they'll be back up before any of these objectives are. But unfortunately, Caps does reset and get back, so BLG won't be able to get anything.
Not even an opportunity to trade back a turret, get some gold back on Bin, and Yike trying to look for the catch here, walking up that river. Jax is very, very mobile. Flash not just up, not up for Bin, and they will decide to back off.
Jeez, every time Yike steps forward, you kind of expect him
to
go for those kills, 5, 2, and 4. Also, let's give some kudos to Mickey here on this Janna. I had my doubts. 0-0-10, I think the impact this game, significant about it. I also think it's fair to say that into a weaker set of initiation tools from BLG, job is made a little bit more simple. So fortunately for him, hasn't been under the same threat, hasn't been under the same pressure that we saw in the previous game.
Yeah, the thing is though, the lack of, so every time we've got this Wukong going in, he's been very flash reliant, right? We even saw it in that last fight, where, well, last pick onto Hansama, but he will have that back up. All flashes will be back up and available for BLG for this next fight, and I think that's where it's going to get super interesting to see how well can G2 keep Hansama safe, how much threat can Caps have on to Elk alongside Yike, because this is where it's going to get so explosive in this fight.
Level 16 just picked up 4 Caps, 2 advantage over Yagao. Broken Blade and Bin nearing level 16 themselves, as is Hansama. I will say as well, keep in mind, even if you are an LEC fan and you're hopeful for G2 here, what we have seen consistently is these late game team fights going either way. Sometimes a little over-initiating, a little over-eager. 45 seconds for Baron, 40 seconds for Dragon number 3, and a lot of opportunities as Yike is going to look for that Blade of the Ruined King. Ben's going to leap away to safety, rather. And it looks for now like G2 are leaning towards the Dragon Pits.
And do note, 3 stopwatches available here for BLG. A GA and a stopwatch for G2 as they get caught.
Oh, they do indeed. Disintegrate fired out. Cap being burned down by Elk. He drops Tippers, uses Hourglass, and Elk forced to kill, forced to safety, but he gets the kill. Hansama and Yike are knocked up into the air. Shoot's done so well. Yike forced to ult over the wall. 2 quick kills for BLG. Inside the Dragon Pit, and Broken Blade needs to pull off a miracle. Ben goes forward, managing to find the Counter-Strike stun and force G2 away. G2 lose 2 members and they lose a Dragon.
G2 were split out. They weren't in a position to actually follow. Broken Blade wasn't there. And now starting to chase away BLG. I don't really know if they can even take this as the position they're in.
Can they stop the Baron? That's going to be the question. 20 seconds for Caps and Hansama. Teleport is available for G2's mid laner. The Dragon secured. The Baron, the objective. And once again, a missed position this time is punished, and that's what allows BLG back into the game.
BLG actually finds the flank that we've been talking about for like 2 games, get onto the backline at the beginning, and now start up the Baron.
There's no Monsoon available for Mickey. Yike is stepping forward, will not be able to get into the pit. Broken Blade looks for the apprehend. Yike's looking for the CC, but they're split, they're routed, they're wrecked. Broken Blade gets enough heal from that Q to stay alive. Caps is alive, Tippers is there. He drops it onto the head of Elk, but there's no one to chase. Super Mega Death Rocket goes wide. Yike is trying to get himself a kill. He manages to steal away Yagao's Ahri, but now needs to back up. Instead, looks for that kill, gets himself one more. Now Yike is chasing on. Hansama has been able to spawn back in and is trying to find Ben. The zap, the rockets, the pow-pows, all they need. Ben is able to leap away to safety. Barons are being removed from members of BLG. That is crucial for G2 Esports. The recall coming out, and that's not going to be enough. Hansama gets the kill. The delayed timers may be enough for G2 to push towards the base.
What's also very important is that the buff is gone from Yagao and Bin, right? If they have the Baron buff available, dealing with this composition is a whole lot harder, but because you're able to take them down, that means that BLG is only going to get any value from this Baron power play, or the buff rather, when they're all together.
And G2 do such a good job of slowing this down. Yike decides to step away from the stun from Bin. Even Broken Blade goes forward here, burns the stopwatch on Yagao, but just watch the knock-up from Mickey here onto Bin, who had the counter-strike, was trying to look for the stun. And with that, Caps has access to Elk. Elk had already burnt his cleanse, burnt his flash, so you get so much damage down. Yes, Caps will give his life, but it means that G2 are able to find their moment to strike. Yike finishes off Yagao in the back line as Bin does the same to Mickey, but it's Yike threatening the rest of them as Hansama comes in that ends up turning this for G2.
And importantly, as we see, without the damage available, great presence of mind there to go for the Scryer's Orb. Without Elk, there just isn't enough damage. Yike doing a really good job making sure in the Barret-empowered recall, almost enough, that the blind zap will end up picking it up. And right now, G2 are taking control of the bot side jungle. 2.5 minutes. This is still a possible storm point for BLG, so G2 need to make sure they don't give that over.
I think there's, what, 2 Baron buffs left on the side of BLG. 5 members of G2 trying to flank 4 members of BLG. Ben with teleport is in that top lane. Zap, just sidestep. Alk has no flash. Cleanse will be available very, very shortly. But the base is going to be the focus. The gold lead is irrelevant at this point. What matters is positioning on the map and who will be able to find that pick before the objective. 2 minutes before BLG can pick up the Infernal Soul. That is not an objective G2 can afford to give over.
But right now, BLG have the better position on the map. You can see it there. Bin can be such a threat on towards the top side. On! He's caught though!
Completely caught out! Heartbreak secured! Just pathing the wrong direction, and G2 they're chasing forward. Yagao forced to Spirit Rush to safety, and Hansama looking for a target. It's a minute and a half, so not enough time, or too long of a time before they can look for that dragon. But it means Bin is pushed away. He cannot continue pushing that top tower.
Massive mistake from On, and as you're saying, like Bin wanted to try and get the tier 2. They were trying to play back and forth between the 2 lanes again, knowing that they have that advantage with the TP, but because On missteps, they can deal easily with that mid lane push and still keep that top tier 2 alive.
And now, setup about to come. Look at the summoners available. Elk, crucially, No flash. Hansama does have his available. I think Caps might just have it up as well when we do actually get to the fight.
30 seconds before it's available, Cronicler.
Gonna be there for him. And the combined damage of Caps and Yike should be enough to take down just one of the members of BLG. As long as they don't get flanked, like in the previous fight, as long as they keep their wits about them and are able to not get caught off guard, G2 should be in a good position here as they first move towards the Dragon.
Chronicle, let's look at the vision being set up there. A couple wards being pushed into this blue buff area. VLG and G2 moving towards the Dragon.
But Bin is full control on top side, and you're super early to this. There's still 25 seconds, and Bin is already on to tier 2.
They can give it up.
That's the thing. They can just say, we don't want to bother with this. We're going to push in mid, put threat on towards the inhibitor on the top side, and Annie has to reset. Caps needs to cover the push, and BLG, they're the ones trying to control the midway.
Chronicle, is this good for G2 or BLG right now? G2 are split up. Obviously, they've lost the tower. That's not good. But they are at risk of being flanked. Broken Blade threatening the Ghost, threatening the Apprehend, teleport being channeled. Broken Blade uses the stopwatch. He's on. That wasn't a bait. Manages to jump onto Elk, stepping forward. Noxian Guillotine still available, but not used. As all of a sudden, with Hansama down, G2 are running for their lives. Elk stays alive. Broken Blade is killed. Mickey is killed. Caps and Yike are the last one standing, and BLG punish G2 Esports. Ow!
That is a heartbreaking mistake to come through. The moment that Darius isn't in the picture, the rest of BLG is more than ready to respond.
Was he trying to use that strike breaker and hit the stopwatch instead? I have no idea. BLG were the ones that were targeted. BLG were the ones that were being jumped on, but it's BLG that take down G2. And BLG will go 2-1 in the series. They were one win away from advancing in MSI.
We talk about the difference between how Eastern teams can play around their AD carries, and that was a prime example right there. Everyone on G2 jumps onto Elk. BLG peel back. Elk survives, whereas Shun is able to deal with Hansama on the back line, and there's no peel for the Jinx. BLG somehow bring that one back.
What happened to Broken Blade? The stopwatch was popped. Was he trying to strike breaker? Was he trying to go, like, was he checking the time? I mean, because it wasn't a bait, was it intentional? Like,
I don't think it matters at the end of it. I think the positioning in the team fight was just atrocious. G2, they all jumped onto Elk, but kind of forgot, wait, we have an AD carry we need to protect as well. Hansama goes down, Elk survives, and the damage is still there for BLG.
Yeah, crucially with Lulu there, heal and cleanse available, Elk is able to kite back at the beginning of that fight, and at the start of that as well, because of the posturing that BLG had, they already had both Bin and Yagao on an angle where they could try and create pressure, right? Try and keep the backline of G2 from joining the fight, which as a result, there just wasn't enough damage to blow up that Aphelios.
There wasn't. What I will say though, out of the 3 games we've seen thus far, despite the fact BLG consistently get advantages and leads, that was the best early game we've seen from G2. They are still the team that's fighting uphill. They're still a team that has to prove that they can defy expectations and force us to game 5. For now, we're going to head to the analyst desk to break down that last fight. And